slowly, and it gets stuck in the hair. So then I got into bed. When I got home, I was drunk. My girlfriend came the next morning, ex-girlfriend. We were still friends. And she came in the house. She had the key. She came in the house and she went to my room. She saw a little blood on the bed and she thought I cut myself, so she didn't bother. A couple hours later, I woke up and was out of it, and I went out to the living room and she saw that I looked weird. So she drove me to the hospital. They checked me in. They discovered my head was cracked. They called my father and my brother, older brother Alan, and they asked for permission to put me into a coma to take a piece of my skull off, so to let the brain swell. If the skull wasn't taken off, the swelling brain would have hit the inside of my skull and I would have died instantly. So they actually saved my life that time. My brother gave permission, and they put me into a coma to take the piece of skull off. A few months later, my brother said it's time to put the skull back on, and Dr. Shipman and Mihonen in charge didn't want to do it. They told my brother he could die, and my brother said no, he's not going to die. The swelling's gone, he'll be okay. And he had to sign a release, and they did it, and I woke up a few weeks later, and everybody was shocked. I was 90 or 89% brain dead, they told them, and I would never walk or talk again the rest of my life. When I woke up, I thought I had gotten drunk the night before, and it took 7 months for me to understand that I was asleep for 2 years in a coma. And I asked them, what's a coma? So what happened was, I believe, and the neurologist believed, that I was mentally born again as a newborn child. And it makes sense because for a year I cried, and like a newborn child, I cried, literally. I didn't believe anybody, I didn't trust anybody. My parents came to see me, I didn't know who they were, I didn't know anybody. My brother came to me, I thought he was my cousin, Steve. It was very shocking. Months later, I understood more. On the second year, I was like a 5-year-old mentally. The third year, I was like 12. I was really inquisitive of everything. I was in my wheelchair at my house every day. The bus picked me up, took me to therapy. The bus brought me back 3 days a week. I was stuck alone at home for 3 years. And so I was a Google fanatic. And I would research things like a young child. I wanted to learn everything. And I studied so much, and my brain was new. And so it was just acquiring all that information so rapidly. I feel like I grew 5 to 7 years old every year. And my doctors didn't believe it, of course. And I had an appointment with Dr. Mihonen after a year. I went to see him, and I was sitting in the room, and he came in, and he asked me where my wheelchair was. And I said, I don't know. I think it's home in the garage. And he looked at me strangely, like, well, how'd you get here? What? I said, I drove. He was shocked. He was perplexed. And that day, which was about a month ago, I reminded him of something that when I saw him a previous year, and he didn't believe me. And he looked it up in the chart, and he looked at me and he said, how did you know then? I said, I remember, and he was shocked. And when I left, he said, you don't have to see me, for, you're pretty much done. He was kind of shocked. And then I went home, and I got on the internet, of course, and Google, of course, and I researched the brain for like 2 days. And I realized that a human only uses a very small percentage of their brain. So it stands to the fact that my neurons left the dead piece and grabbed a brand new piece. That's why when I woke up, I sounded like a newborn child. I cried for a year. Everything makes sense. And I called Mihonen back, and he was perplexed. He had no idea that he's a brain surgeon. He didn't know that. Something new about the human body is found out every day in this world, and it'll be forever. It'll never end. Anyway, so I'm here now. I'm alive. I'm definitely blessed. I'm meant to be here for a reason. And a lot of that reason is for me to help everybody else in the world. That's what I want to do. I owe it to this world to pay this world back for all the shit I gave it and all the hell I did. And that's my focus now, to help everybody in the world. In ending, the synopsis or the tally is, I've had 3 weeks ago was my 45th surgery on my eyes. I'm 20/20 now. The doctor said I'll never have straight eyes the rest of my life. He was wrong. I have 11 doctors, 7 surgeons, and every one of them was proved wrong. And so I have to believe in a higher power. Doctors, they don't know everything. They always say what's safe. They don't want to get sued. And that's a fact. But I've had 45 surgeries over all my body, good, bad, ugly, whatever, big, small. I almost died medically 11 times, and I was in a coma for 2 years and a month, pretty much. And I'm here now, and my whole focus on life now is to help everybody else in the world, because everybody needs help. We're all, God, I hate to say this, but you know, God said we're all failures. We have to be. We can't be perfect. We're not gods. Everyone in the world fails once in their life, once in a day, maybe 10 times a day. And I don't realize it. I never realized it because I'm so God-loving and I go to church. I do everything right. But even I fail, you know. 3 or 4 months ago, I left Walmart. I got home. And I always count my money and I put it in the drawer at the end of the day. And the dollar bills were so crisp and new, there was 2 of them instead of 1. I drove back, walked in with my cane at that time, and there was the lady at the register and her boss was there giving her hell. And I said, "Excuse me, I think you gave this to me extra." And the manager looked at me and he was like, "Wow." And he looked at her and said, "I'm sorry." And he looked at me and said, "You know, can I do anything for you?" And I got goosebumps because he looked at me and said, "God bless you." And I went, wow. And I left shivering. And I said, "I don't want anything. I'm just glad I could help." It made me feel good to do something good instead of something bad that I spent my whole life doing. And I want to feel that way the rest of my life, and I want to help everybody in the world that I can. And that's one of the main reasons I want to do this acting. I want to be able to be seen and people to say, "Hey, that's Randy." Like, you know, a well-known actor, George Clooney or whatever. "Hey, that's George Clooney." And when you're like that, people typically want to become you. They want to be like you. They want to emulate you. You know, I'm like him. They want to dress like you. They want to... And when I'm seen, I can spread the word out there to do good things. Don't do alcohol. Don't do drugs. Don't do prostitution. Don't do everything I'd spent my life doing. And with God's help, I can save as many people as I can now. And even now, when I meet somebody that has a problem, I always like to find out what it is. And if the people don't know me, they look at me kind of confused, like, you know, with the attitude of, "What do you care? Who are you?" And I just mention I was in a coma 2 years, and they go, "What? Whoa," and then they're more eager to listen. It's my way in, and I find out what's wrong, and I try to help whatever I can. Just a while ago, somebody I met at church, an old friend of mine from Laguna, she was in the crowd at Life Church, and I saw her, and she said, "Oh, great.
I've